Hi, how's it going? This is Resident of Collinwood for YouTube. Joel T. Sains here with you, back with another Dark Shadows video for you guys and gals. Barnabas, no Barnabas in this episode, but this is a continuation. Episode 10 of Season 1 of DS. From the beginning, yes, I am covering literally every episode of Dark Shadows in case you haven't been paying attention. And like Santa Claus, I actually do deliver to your household. That is, if this video actually reaches your household. You're welcome. No. So, again, narrated by Alexander Mulkey Isles, written by Art Wallace, Leela Swift. Man, oh man, I love the direction of this episode. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you episode 10 of DS. And literally, this is of the previous 9 teasers we got, this one is my goddamn favorite. Why? Because I keep talking about the camera play we get in these, and this one delivers 20 times more than those 9 episodes did. And I'm not knocking the 9 episodes prior to this, but I really love the way they mess with the camera on this episode because it's beautiful and it's an art form. For example, we start with obviously the narration from Alexandra, but what we get is we get a shot from the drawing room. The drawing room doors aren't exactly closed, but they're sort of partially gaped open, just enough for a camera to peek through. It almost looks like somebody's looking through the goddamn crack. And I love this direction. It's a beautiful, beautiful decision by the production team, and B, the director. I don't care who you credit first, but they goddamn deserve it. Dark Shadows is a goddamn art form, and they show you it in every episode of DS. Literally. Whether you want to admit that or not, they actually do. And the camera through the door is a beautiful shot because what do you see? You see a door opening, and it's the door to the outside world. In walks David Collins. If you look, we know Carolyn has gone into town, so the Collins family do leave the goddamn house. I mean, already had proof of that with Carolyn being at the Blue Whale, but she's not the only one because, again, coming in the house is young David Collins, and then he shuts the door. I love how David Hennessy goes right up to the door and sort of peeks through the door. Ladies and gentlemen, I have said Stephen King ripped off from Dark Shadows. Go look at this scene and go look at the sequence of here's Johnny and get back to me. Literally get back to me. I'm serious. If Stephen King did not borrow from this exact episode, then I'll say I'm goddamn wrong. But I do believe he did. David Hennessy's face is almost pressed up against the door. He's looking through the crack in the door, like the small gate. How they left the door open. Now imagine the door being closed and someone taking an axe to it and doing the same goddamn thing with a hole in the goddamn door. Again, a lot of horror needs to credit DS for its inspiration, whether they want to or not, whether they'll goddamn admit it or not. Own your shit or else. Tell them all riled up today. So that being said, the phone begins to ring, and you know what that means. Somebody's going to answer it, and no, it's not going to be David Hennessy's David Collins. Why? Because why the hell should David answer the phone? I mean, he's looking for a place to hide. This is every little kid I can imagine. A kid looking for a place to hide, and he does. He hides in the small, dark space within the foyer's room. Problem, David Hennessy is a little too big to be hiding in small spaces. I love Joan Bennett's walk across the terrace, looking down across as she comes down the steps, spotting David Hennessy's David Collins. Liz answers the phone, as she should. Hello, it's Roger. She has a conversation with Roger, saying, well, she's here now. They're talking about Miss Winters. I have no intention of locking her in a room or keeping her prisoner. And then there's a hang up. Liz, I love Joan Bennett's line here. I love the camera work. we're showing Joan's face. David's in the corner still hiding, right? That was your father, David. I suspect he's on his way home. And here comes David. She goes, "You're far too small for." He goes, "You saw me." She goes, "You're far too small for hiding. You're far too big for hiding spaces." I'll get it right. Um, we have a bit of an interesting dialogue here because David says something to the effect that about the tea set cup. And she goes, "You did do it. I didn't do it. They did it." And what David is implying, they is the ghost, the widows, if you will. The ghosts that haunt this goddamn house on this goddamn estate. Again, we're not saying the word ghost, but you get the metaphor. It's a beautiful, beautiful. Oh my God. It's lovely. Again, it's a great scene, and David wanders off after, Liz caters to him a bit. So, David does say something. Many things happen to this house. Strange things happen in this house. David is telling us things are not as normal as they might look. Again, another hint to the spectral world of Dark Shadows. To a suggestion that there is more than the living inside the goddamn house. Yes, you could say, oh, it's David Hennessy's David Collins saying this, but you have to take it with a very small pinch of salt. He's not the only one that suggests ghosts in this episode. We finally get an admission from a somewhat of an admission from the matriarch herself. Or do we? Is the biggest question mark. Again, this is my favorite DS teaser. This is also my favorite episode from the beginning, right next, well, my second favorite episode from the beginning, right next to the actual arrival of one Victoria Winters. Because in reality, what this episode does is is literally bring the beginning episode full circle in every way. I'm not meaning you're going to find out if Burke Devlin was wrongfully accused. No, that's far away. But by the end of this episode, you'll get what I'm saying. Remember who arrived on the train with Victoria Winters. Burke Devlin. Remember who's been being talked about by Roger and Liz. Burke goddamn Devlin. And also Frank Schofield's character, Bill Malloy. Burke Devlin. Sam Evans. Burke Devlin. If I say the name Burke Devlin one more time, I'm going to be accused of saying the word Shane. So that being said, I'll move on. Now, I really love the next scene because we get this is our first real look of the inside of Burke Devlin's hotel room. And you might say it's just another set design, but it's a neat set design. It's not the exact set design that Collinwood is. The room actually doesn't look as big because, again, a mansion should be bigger than a goddamn hotel, let alone a hotel room. So the room does look small compared to Collinwood, and it absolutely should. So Burke, who's in his hotel room, gets a knock on his door. He tells the operator he wants to be called in a half hour. He opens the door, and, well, it's Carolyn Collins' Stoddard, Elizabeth's daughter. And he goes, "I'm sorry I didn't answer the door right away. I was busy." So he lets her in. By the way, he sets a paper on his couch on purpose. Can you say hook, line, and sinker? Because that's what happens in this episode. So, in walks Carolyn. And he goes, "How else can you tell what the monster looks like?" And she goes, "No, that's not why I'm here." Well, I guess so. So you have a bit episode, and as Carolyn goes to sit down in a chair, Burke directs her to the couch where she'll be, quote, more comfortable. And he does sit her down, and he goes, "Can I offer you a ginger ale?" No, not at first, and as he sits down, a conversation ensues. "Why is my uncle afraid of you?" Burke laughs and he goes, "Marvelous. If I had my hat on, I'd tip it to you. Just sheer marvelous." And she goes, "I don't think what I'm saying is funny. I just asked a question, but there is no answer." She goes, my business isn't here with your uncle. Of course, Burke's lying through his teeth, but again, Burke isn't employing a tactic the Collins aren't unfamiliar with. He's turning their tactics slowly against them. He knows they lie. He's already experienced the lie of it. So, again, a tactician is Burke Devlin. Again, this is supposed to be Liz's ultimate chess player across from her, but in reality, what Burke doesn't realize is, well, you'll see. Not in this episode. I'm not going to spoil that. I almost did. I almost did. See what I did there? I saved it. Saved it. so, so now you get. Now Carolyn wants that soda. Burke goes in, and Burke is watching her read the paper beside her, and you have a very interesting situation. Burke is watching her. He's smiling. Again, he left the paper there on purpose for her to read. And Burke walks out with the ginger ale. She's obviously set the paper down before he's done this. And she goes, "Here you go." She goes, and he says something to the effect of, look at the look at the look at the main street. All main streets look alike in every town." He goes, I used to collect bottles for, I think he says quarters. I could be wrong. Um, but Carolyn says it's not as much as $500,000. The money's not certain. But if you want to, you'll have to get to Venezuela soon. And Burke he acts mad, and you can tell he's acting mad. It's clear to the audience. Carolyn doesn't pick up on it, and he goes, "I wish you wouldn't have read that." And Carolyn just says, "Well, you shouldn't just leave your mail lying around." But Carolyn does call his bluff a bit, which I like. He says, "You didn't just leave that sitting there on purpose." And he goes, "How can you tell?" There's a phone call, and Burke picks up the telephone. Or sorry, I'll get back to this. We go back to the great house because I don't want to skip over anything. And Roger is home. Roger's car is home. Things are going to get really interesting. David is playing with a robot before this happens. First in the foyer, and he takes the robot in on the floor of the drawing room. The car door slams. Then the door opens. David hides. It is his father, Roger Collins. David does not like his father. He somewhat fears him. Want to hear the kicker? Roger fears his son. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Um, he says, "Elizabeth," as he walks in the drawing room. He says, "No one is around when you want them," and he pours himself a brandy, which was tea, apparently. Now, so, again, I want to correct myself. If I said it was liquor, I apologize. It was tea. There was in the stuff. Now, you have a very interesting situation. Liz walks in, and there's a conversation. He goes, "Do you know what your lovely little governess was doing in town?" "Yeah, she was making a private phone call." "More like a private meeting, more like it, with Burke Devlin." "Burke Devlin? Oh, she didn't tell you that?" "Yeah, she was meeting with him." And she goes, and he goes, "Burke intends on hurting everyone, including that 20-year-old girl I warned you not to bring in here." So we get Vicky's confirmation. She is 20 years old. Carolyn is almost her age, which means Carolyn is probably either A, 18 or B, 19. You can take an educated guess. I would say 19. Now, so everybody's under 21 from a fictional sense, unless you're Liz and Roger, which they're not under 21. So Liz leaves the room, and David's robot goes off. Roger hears it. He looks behind, and he yells at David to get to his feet. He pulls him to his feet, actually, which I love the physicality in this episode. It lets you know that Roger has a hot temper, and we've seen this hot temper on display before with Victoria, but if you needed a reminder of it, this episode hits home. Again, this episode, in a sense, is bringing full circle the very first episode of Burke eventually coming into Collinwood. Again, I'm getting there. So he heard every word. Liz walks in because she hears the commotion, them arguing. Because what David says is, I used to hear you and Mother fight all the time about Burke Devlin. She said about sending you away once but she couldn't because of Burke Devlin. And Roger goes, David, you've never heard his name till tonight. No, I used to hear his name all the time when you and Mom used to fight. What else did you hear? Nothing, just his name. You rotten little liar. What a great exchange by David Hennessy and Lewis Edmonds. They really play off like their father and son, and it's a treat to watch. Both actors nail their lines perfectly and without a flub. Again, look, Dark Shadows does have goof ups, but again, this was live TV. This was recorded. Yes, there was videotape recording, but again, they filmed in chroma key. Or sorry, they you get what I'm saying. They filmed when they couldn't really edit the stuff out. I mean, they couldn't alter it. So if a line got flubbed, it generally got flubbed. And again, no line gets flubbed here. Beautiful. Liz walks in here in a commotion, and Lewis Edmonds' character, Roger Collins, says he heard every word we said. And Dave, I love how Lewis Edmonds sort of pushes him toward Liz. It looks like David gets away. It's a smooth move by Lewis Edmonds as an actor to sort of cue David Hennessy over to her. And again, I don't think this is a flop. I just think this is Lewis Edmonds helping one of his co-stars out, and I applaud him for it. He's a true professional in every sense of the word of a performer. So is everybody else on this goddamn show, and they deserve their cake and to eat it goddamn too. And you best goddamn believe that. Now, Elizabeth says that's no reason to get upset. She tells David to go up to his room, and David delivers a line no one will forever forget. He says, I hope Burke Devlin comes back here, and I hope he gets even, and he runs off someplace. What a line. We go back to Burke's hotel room. Why not? No, not for any sort of fun activity. For more dialogue. Look, there is no premarital sex in this show. There's premarital kissing, but I mean that can lead to that, but I mean it doesn't. Look, what do you want from me? I'm just the narrator here. So there's no kissing in this scene though, or this episode. Now, there's a telephone call here, and it's a call from the operator, but Carolyn doesn't know it. It's as he says, Venezuela. So there's a brief conversation. Burke hands up the phone, and well, Carolyn's all too happy, but she still has her doubts. And he goes, "Why don't you call the switchboard?" And she goes, "Oh no, 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 no." Again, this is Burke being the ultimate chess player himself, literally. We know Elizabeth is, and we're learning Burke, and we've already known Burke is, but we're also learning how deep of a player he is in this episode. How far will he go? He'll go all the way with a lie to get what he wants. For better or worse, but not worse to me. Again, I don't necessarily feel sorry for Carolyn because Carolyn brought herself here. Carolyn is falling hook, line, and sinker because she's head over heels in puppy love in love with a man she doesn't understand until it's too late. Now, So to the death of the monster, they toast. We go back to the great house, right? Liz is dreaming. She's asleep in a chair. She's tuckered out from all the arguing of the state. And again, this is still the same goddamn day. Now we're at night, by the way. We're darkness, okay? It's nighttime. And nighttime is the right time for some mayhem fun. Liz says, ghosts, ghosts, there are no ghosts here. Subconsciously, I love this little dialogue and I love this line. Joan Bennett is dreaming of the demons that may haunt her and her family, whether living or dead. Ghost to Liz is a metaphor for the living. Yes, they're alive, but they're as scary as a goddamn specter ever will. And there's a hint of this too. The dialogue between her and David. As she's waking up, she sees a blurry little figure in front of her. The figure appears to be covered in something, mainly dirt or motor oil, whatever you want to say. Motor oil, but it looks dirty, right? David is filthy. We don't know where he is. And she goes, "Oh, you're so filthy." And David ignores her, says, "Ghost, you were talking about ghosts." There are no ghosts. Where are the ghosts, Aunt Elizabeth? I love Elizabeth's line, Joan's line. In your mind, David. Is Bert Devlin, is he a ghost? Liz stands up. This is a great posture move by Joan Bennett. This is a serious matter, and she knows Burke is serious. We know Burke is serious since he arrived, and we knew Burke was serious when she was having a conversation with Bill Malloy. Now we know how serious to a degree, and we know it's serious because Liz says, no, he's all too real. Meaning, yes, there are ghosts, but the ghosts we fight aren't necessarily always dead. They're often living, breathing forms of specters. And it's a beautiful sentiment. No, she doesn't say those words, but that's what she's meaning in my book. Burke is alive. He's a threat to this family. And he'll do anything to destroy them. Not just necessarily Roger, at least that's what's in Elizabeth's mind. Elizabeth asks what David has in his hand. She also asks why he's so dirty. He avoids the dirt, and he says, just seashells, just seashells. Well, let me see. David runs off. There's a knock on the door. Or sorry, the as Joan, sorry, not a knock on the door. As Joan follows David, David Hennessy, David Collins, Elizabeth is in the foyer. The door opens, and here comes Carolyn. She says to Carolyn, "You're home so late," confirming it's night. Now, "Yes, mother, and I brought home a friend." In walks Bert Devlin without even knocking on the door. He is now an invited guest of Carolyn Collins Stoddard. Has the devil finally entered Collinwood? And that's something you're going to have to find out in the next episode with me. My friends, this is a beautiful episode. It really is. From start to finish, it is beautifully shot, filmed, and executed. The actors and actresses nail their lines. And hey, guess what? There's no Alex. Other than the voiceover, Alexandra isn't literally in this episode. You don't see her. You don't see her character. You get a mention of, again, when a character's not in an episode, you get them mentioned. Liz's phone conversation with Roger, and then the conversation in the drawing room with Roger, Victoria is mentioned in this episode. Again, Dark Shadows makes damn well sure you never forget a character in DS, and God bless the writers for it. I hope you guys enjoyed this review of episode 10. I will have episode 11 up for you tomorrow. Folks, have a lovely, lovely day.